Good boy, Tucker.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome.
Work smarter where you want.
Consistency is key.
And remember, if it's not in Redtail, it never happened.
This is learning at its most fun.
Hello, everybody. Like Kurt says, my name is Austin, back with you again. Haley, thank you for joining me today. We're going to be doing overseeing operations. So I hinted at it earlier today, but today's section is just going to have the objective of using Redtail for internal operations. So that's going to entail covering database cleanup, operations, regulation, best interest, and then we're going to go ahead and just recap some of the skills that we go ahead and cover today. So we're going to be doing something a little bit different as far as the training goes today. We're going to be doing a little bit of role playing. So Haley usually is in her trainer hat and she's bestowing wisdom on us about Redtail CRM, but today she's going to go to the other side of the desk and she's going to take the role of you guys. She's going to be the COO, the Chief Operations Officer at Rollover Advisory Services. And so, Haley, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, great. So again, guys, this is very similar to the same format that we would have if we were doing a Redtail training session. So give me just a moment here. Okay, I'm ready now too. All right, so what we're going to do is go ahead and jump into our database. And Haley, I heard that you have a list of questions for me as far as what we're going to be covering today.
Yes. Yeah. So I've been working in my database and trying to apply all of those searches, that Curtis and Catherine were talking about. But honestly, my database is a mess. We've been good at entering notes, activities, and contacts, but over the years, I just feel like it's really disorganized. I don't know where to start with cleanup.
Yeah, no problem, Haley. Don't feel bad. It's definitely a typical problem that happens with Redtail databases or as years pass on is we experience what's called data decay, and we need to make sure that we're updating our databases. And we also need to make sure that everybody's on the same page as far as how the database works and operates. And so one tool that we found to be very effective in doing that is what's called a Redtail style guide. And a Redtail style guide, basically what it does is the living, breathing document that states how you should be using certain fields inside your Redtail database. So let me show you where to go to find some more information about that. We're going to go to the question mark icon here in the top right corner, and we're going to open up the Redtail help desk. I went ahead and opened it here in a new tab for us. And once we get to the Redtail help desk, we're going to use this little search option here and type in style guide. Another fast way to get to this page if needed is you could just do a Google search for Redtail style guide and it will be the first result that comes up. But here's a how-to guide to create a style guide. Basically what we do is we give definitions behind each of our database lists. So for example, what's the difference between an active client and a prospect? Well, we can see that accounts are held for active clients, but for prospects, all we've done is just made that first initial interaction. And so here we can go and easily see the definition of what makes a hot prospect versus a cold prospect, or what is the difference between a AAA client and a AA client. And so if you'd like an example, Haley, you can scroll down to the bottom of this article, and we have some completed and also blank documents for you to create for yourself. So if you want some examples on how to build out a style guide, you can download either the completed one in Word or PDF, or if you'd like to start from scratch and build your own, you can go ahead and download these blank templates as well.
So it's kind of like me stepping outside of Redtail, defining what my statuses mean, and then going back in with more purpose.
Exactly, yeah. And the idea is making sure that all users in the database know exactly how each of those fields should be used. And therefore, it's going to create more consistent data, and it's going to clean up some of that disorganization that you're experiencing.
So you could even say we're literally on the same page.
There you go. Same page.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, I could definitely check that out. Another thing we run into is every time you create a contact and you add an employer, it adds a business contact for that record. And there's just too many of them. And if I delete them, it deletes the employers. So how do I separate vendors from employers, from CPAs or centers of influence or any other business contacts that my firm has to know about or be able to reach out to?
Absolutely. So we talked about it a little bit earlier today, but when it comes to contacts, there's really not, you can never have too many contacts, but you can have too many contacts if they're not organized correctly. And so that's why we need to focus in on that status field. So that way we can separate those different types of business contacts into their appropriate status. So we want to have, when we want to find our client employers, we want to be able to search by the status and find those. But if we want to find the vendors or the businesses that we interact with, we want those listed as a different status. So it all comes down to that status field. And one tool that I like to use to make things as easy as possible with me is automation template, like we talked about earlier in tackling templates. Now, the example automation template that we'll use is under our name, and then we're going to choose the manager account section. Once we're here, we're going to choose the automation templates. Now, for time's sake, because I know we're working on a limited schedule here, I went ahead and go to create it for us already. But if you need to recap how to create one of these, Haley, feel free to visit our help desk and search for a video on automations, and it will walk you through exactly how to create an automation like this one. But the example automation that we're going to use today is called the client employer automation. And what it does is when we add a contact, so when a new employer contact is added, it automatically statuses that contact as the employer of a client. If, of course, it is not, if it's equal to a business and it is not equal to either business or vendor. So how that works is when we add the contact must be a business type contact because we don't want that to apply to our individual records. But we also, if we're going to state that, hey, this is a business or this is a vendor, then we don't want that to apply, right? We only want this to be when it's actually the employer. And so when that happens, it's going to set the field contact status equal to employer or client. So let's go ahead and update this automation and we'll go ahead and give it a test.
So it's almost like an elimination. Like I have to coach my team to enter centers of influence or businesses or vendors with their appropriate status. And then if a business contact is added and nobody gave it a status, like in the case of when it's created automatically, when adding a contact, then it will automatically get that employer status. Is that right?
That's exactly right. So let's go ahead and show you how that works. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull up an example contact here. We're going to use, we'll use Ross as an example today.
So what if I don't have a status for them, but they're not an employer of a client? Is that where I should maybe think about adding another status besides vendor or business?
Yeah, absolutely. Going to your managed database list like we talked about earlier, and creating those statuses for those different types of relationships that you want to track in your contact management system.
Okay.
So,
Sorry, go ahead and show me.
You're good. So when we want to add an employer here to Ross, we can see that he is a paleontologist and a professor, but we're not really quite sure where. We're going to click this little icon here. Got a guy with a little pencil on his shoulder, and that's going to edit our basic information. Okay. And so when we go and enter in the employer here, in this case, it is Columbia University. Now you notice that Columbia does not appear as a drop-down menu in my database. If it did exist, then it would show up. But in this case, Columbia is going to be a new contact for us. It doesn't exist in the database. And so when I go to update this individual, Redtail is going to automatically create that business type contact.
I did notice that, and I have told my team when typing in employers just to type a little bit slower or maybe try a couple different names if the company could go by different names to make sure that we're not creating duplicates.
Yeah, great advice. Okay, so now that Columbia University has been created in the database, if we go ahead and just click this hyperlink here to go to that contact record, we'll notice that the status has already been set up for employer of client. So
that's awesome. That's so great. So I don't have to worry about them showing up as not specified as the status and cluttering up my contacts and making it so I have to hire an intern to go sort through who they belong to or if they're an employer. This is an awesome automatic way to assign the status through an automation. Thanks, Austin.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so that one's great for taking a little bit of the work off there. The automation will work for that. But how do I clean up contacts that have already been added? Because I already have a lot of businesses that don't have the right status.
Yeah, totally. So of course, when we're going to be cleaning up contacts, we're going to want to go to the left-hand menu here.
Sorry, Lewis said, hey, I like interns. I like interns too. maybe we can give them other tasks.
Yes, definitely. Okay, contacts here on the left. And then there's a couple different ways that I can search for the contacts that I'm looking for, but we just learned searching made simple. So I'm going to go and take some of those applied things that we learned with Curtis and Catherine and use the advanced search tool in Redtail to find maybe contacts that don't have a status entered. And so what we can do is we can go to the type here, and we're going to choose contact. The field, of course, is going to be status. The operand is going to be equal to, and let's go ahead and search for those that are not specified. And so we can go ahead and run that list, and we could see some of those that might need some cleanup as far as entering the appropriate status for them. And then what I'll also do here is I'm also going to create an OR search here as well, because I also want to find contacts that maybe don't have a contact status of not specified, but it's just completely blank. So it has a blank contact status. So I'm going to do a multi-tiered search here. Click this OR button.
Would a blank status be from like an import possibly?
Potentially, yeah, definitely. Contact, status, and the operand is empty. And we'll go ahead and run that search as well. So that way we get both of them in the same list. And so once we have those contacts all in the same list, what we can use is contact options and bulk actions to go ahead and clean up the statuses in bulk. So for example here, if I know that Erica, Jack, and Harvey are all active clients of mine, I can go ahead and click the checkboxes next to their name. Go over to the right-hand side of my screen and choose contact options. It will click happy there. Bulk actions. And after choosing bulk actions, I can choose the option here for change contact status. And by doing that, I'm going to update their contact status in bulk. So here we go, active client. And those three contacts are now going to be listed as my active clients.
And I see based on the bulk actions that came up, there's many more fields I can do this for in bulk, as long as all the contacts I bring up are all going to have the same value. So
that's exactly right, Haley. So with things like statuses, we know that that can apply to multiple records. Now, there are instances in Redtail where there might be a unique value for each contact. Like for example, their date of birth, or maybe their tax ID number. When it comes to cleaning up those, what the best option would be is to use the custom export template that we learned about earlier today. What we can actually do is we can export that data into a Excel spreadsheet, update the fields in the spreadsheet, and then we can email support at Redtail Technology to send that email back, or excuse me, send that spreadsheet back to us through a secure link, and our welcome team here can update all of those fields for you in bulk. So it's a much faster way than having to click through each record and update each of those fields. We can get all of our data on a nice formatted spreadsheet and make those changes. And again, that's for those instances where it's not going to be the same. It's not like a status where we're going to have a bunch of the same ones. It's going to be for those unique values like tax ID number or date of birth.
I was just going to ask, yeah, for like any other tips on faster contact cleanup that I can, hand over to my admin or my interns. And so was that your tip then for choosing like a certain number of fields and then running like a smaller batch of contacts using that export?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always going to depend on your preference. I know some people like to be in the database and they're quicker in the database than they would be with a spreadsheet. But I know that there are, especially in the financial advisor space, some people that can be really crafty with spreadsheets. And so you kind of have a mix of both. Just find what works best for you. But yeah, definitely using exports and updating them in spreadsheets is a great way to get your database cleaned up.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like anytime I clean up information for an existing field or for existing clients, I should also probably try and set a process to keep it clean going forward. So with my employer of a client, I'm going to clean up all my not specifieds now, and then going forward, the automation is going to help me keep it clean. So,
Yep.
okay, I really like that. All right, let's kind of switch gears into operations a little bit.
Let's do it.
So working remotely due to COVID, or, just because we're working remotely now, I am very concerned about staying on top of what my team is doing. I want to know, it's not that I don't think they're working, but how can I tell if my team is being productive in this remote environment?
Yeah, definitely. 2 places for you to check out. The first of which is the Redtail calendar. So the Redtail calendar here allows for us to set our filtered views. So that way we can view the different calendars for each of our associates. So if I wanted to just see my own calendar, I could choose this little option here at the top and just click the box here for myself. And that's going to make just my own calendar appear. Now, let's say I wanted to peek and see what let's see what Leonidas is up to this week. I can also go ahead and click Leonidas's calendar here and deselect my own, and that's going to make Leonidas's calendar up here for me in the database. So that way I can visually see, okay, what does Leonidas have on his calendar for this week? And let's also maybe bring in some of the other contacts as well and see what they might be working on this week.
So it sounds like I'm going to be able to view whatever they put in. So I should encourage my team that if they tell me, they're busy or they're swamped, then their calendar should reflect that. And
Exactly.
if maybe I can say I'll run reports on this information or something to try and see what their productivity is.
Yeah, exactly. So if you would like a report, then what you're going to do is go to the reports tab here on the left. And we're going to use the activity reports to be able to give ourselves more of a list view of the different actions that are being taken place in that database. So here we are in the reports section, and we're going to go down to activity reports. And the one I like to use is this activities by contact report. And so we'll go ahead and open up this report here. And what we're going to do is it's just going to show us all of the activities in the database. So what we're going to want to make sure we do is filter this report to find specifically what it is that we're looking for. So for example, let's go ahead and hit this filter option here. And Haley, let's actually take a look at your week and see what your calendar looks like. So we'll go ahead and set the start date here for the beginning of the week. I'll choose Sunday the 11th, and we'll go to the following Sunday, this week is the 18th, and the following week is the 25th. So this week for Haley, we're going to look at open activities. So those are things that she has not completed at this point. And I'm just going to make sure that I set the attendee to Haley. So we'll look at your week and see what she'll be working on. And so the Redtail is now processing the report, and we got 16 entries back. And so Haley has 16 things that she needs to be working on this week. And so
before, Catherine recommended templates. Can I run a report on a template?
So if you go to the filters option here in the top right here, you do have the option of running reports based off of the type and the category. And so the template is going to automatically set the type or the category in that case. So for example, maybe you had a template for your appointments and your client review. So a client review template might set the type for appointment and the category for client review / meeting. And so by entering the same filters as you would on the template, you can go ahead and apply those filters and see which of those the template would apply to.
Perfect. Okay, so it sounds like I've got a lot of flexibility. I can either focus in on one person or multiple people and one template. And maybe we could even run this as a team once a week or every day to see what's on everyone's, what's on their docket for the day, and talk through moving some items over. So no one's overloaded, but everyone has plenty to do. This sounds like it's going to be really useful.
Yeah, this is also great if you do find, for example, maybe one employee has a little bit more work than the next. You can use this report to reassign certain instances. So for example, if these 2 client reviews I wanted to reassign to somebody, I'll just go ahead and click the checkbox to the left, activity options, and I can reassign those to a different user.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh, and okay, there's lots of options there. So this really I definitely love this. So I just have to encourage my team to use those templates or to enter their activities, and I can make that easier on them by adding those templates. And then I'll be able to then reflect back on their productivity in a way. Really helpful. All right. So kind of along the same lines, I'm nervous that they may be forgetting to enter their notes, as they go through the day and there's phone calls and there's emails and you're going back and forth. How can I check to make sure their notes are being entered thoroughly in Redtail as well?
Sure. So 2 places for you. The first is on the Today page. We can go to home base here for Redtail. And across the top of the Today page, we have a couple of different dashboards that we can choose from. And one of them is the Notes dashboard. And so the Notes dashboard is located right here towards the middle. Go ahead and click that Notes dashboard. And that's going to give us a high-level look of all of the notes being added into the database. So I can filter for the last 24 hours, I can filter for the last 3 days, or even the last week, and go ahead and see the notes as they're coming in. So if I want a place to be continually checking for notes, I might consider maybe making a recurring activity to check this dashboard here to make sure that notes are being added and they're being added consistently. Now, we're only limited to 7 days here, so if you wanted to look even further back, we can also run a notes by contact report. And that's found by going to the left-hand menu here and choosing reports.
So that notes page, well, I know you're going to the reports, but while you're going there, that notes page, I really liked that notes page. Can I set that to my default login page like we talked about in Everyday Efficiency?
You sure can. So just a reminder, just go to your preferences, and it's going to be as part of the first option inside preferences to set that as your default login page. So if that's something where you want that notes page to be that first thing that you check in the morning, you can go ahead and set it as your default login page.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a great way to see kind of what's been going on for the last couple of days. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
Absolutely. So back to the reporting as far as notes go, we need to look further than 7 days in the past, or maybe we want to hone in on like a specific user. We're going to go to the reports on the left here, scroll on down until we find the section for notes reports. Now I am going to highlight a new feature for Redtail here, and that's this little star icon. Just like we learned with favorite contacts, if you don't like having to scroll down to access this notes report and you want it to show up more towards the top, you can go ahead and click that star option here to fill it up. What that's going to do is it's going to make it part of my favorite reports here at the top. And so if this is a report that you frequently access, consider making it a favorite so that way you can find it quickly. So let's go to the notes by contact report here. And just like we did with the activity report, we're just going to go ahead and filter for what it is specifically that we are looking for. So for example, if I wanted to see the notes for my team over the last month, I can go ahead and just set my start and date to whichever I want to look, whatever time horizon I want to look for, and then go ahead and choose the users that I want to go ahead and look for. So I'm going to choose myself, and Haley, I'll choose you as well, and then maybe we'll throw in Jet at the same time. Okay, and so this is going to show us all of the notes that these 3 users have entered in. And so when it comes to reporting on those notes, if you have those questions, just play around with those filters. That's going to go ahead and give you the things that you are specifically looking for.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I definitely feel more equipped with notes and just encouraging them again to put them in to the system, maybe making templates to make it easier. Another kind of direction I want to go with this is I really want to check in with my clients, just see how they're doing and kind of do like a check-in or a pulse to see what's going on, especially the top clients, at least once this quarter. How can I make sure that something like that happens?
Yeah, definitely. So I have 2 reports for you here. So we're going to go back to the left-hand side menu here and click on reports once again. And these are 2 of my absolute favorite reports in Redtail, because typically when we run a report, we're reporting on data that is in the database. But in this case, we're actually going to run reports on data that's not in the database. And that can be just as valuable. And so the 2 we're talking about today is the no contact report and the contacts with no upcoming activities. So let's start with the no contact report. The no contact report in Redtail is going to show you which contacts have not had contact in a certain amount of time frame. So just like with the notes and activities report, we're going to start with the report filter option here. And Haley likes to report in quarters. So we're going to go ahead and choose the filter for, actually, it looks like it already did it for us, 90 days. But say, for example, you wanted to report on a semi-annual or even an annual basis, you can go ahead and edit your filter here. And then it was your top clients that you were concerned about. And so let's look for our active clients that are part of our AAA category. So our top tiered active clients, and we'll go ahead and apply those filters. And what Redtail is going to do is it's going to search through all of their notes and all of their completed activities and find which ones that might have been missing a contact this quarter. And so here we can see Julie Investor. It's been almost 3 years since the last time we've talked to her. So we definitely want to make sure that we have her on the agenda to meet this quarter. And then, of course, we want to look future tense. So things that we want to make sure that we have something calendared with each of our active clients. That's where the contact with no upcoming activities report comes in. So I can use active reports here.
With Julie showing up here, I know I talked to her last week, so it sounds like maybe there's a duplicate record or there's something else going on. This report may not reflect who I haven't spoken with, but it may just be where information hasn't made it into Redtail, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it doesn't necessarily mean you haven't talked to that person. It just means that it hasn't had a note entered or a completed activity entered in for it. So you could still have that client review meeting from last year or the year before, but for whatever reason, you didn't hit that complete button on it. And so that's why she's showing up on your report. So it's just flagging your attention. Probably want to go ahead and open up Julie's contact record, investigate, and see what the case might be in that case. All right, and then the other report, Haley, I wanted to show you is the future tense. So no upcoming activity. Now you can go to the reports tab here on the left and find it, but you can also use the shortcut here to go to the contacts and find with no upcoming activity. So again, this is going to look future tense. Do we have something on our calendar for our top clients for this quarter? And so just like with any report, we're going to go ahead and start with filter options. We're going to set our filter appropriately to finding those top clients in a certain date range. So maybe from here, we'll look till the end of the year. Oops, I want to go to December 31st. So between now and the end of the year, I want to make sure that I'm meeting with my active clients at least once, whether that's just a check-in phone call, a Zoom meeting, whatever the case might be. I might even want to just make sure that this head of household is selected too, so that way spouses or children don't show up on this list as well. Let's go ahead and apply those filters. And this is going to let us know or give us a starting point of how we might schedule out the remaining of our year to make sure that we're meeting with each of our top clients for the end of the calendar year.
Awesome. So the list that I get here, that's the list I want to reach out to. And then can I do something with them once they come up? Am I able to schedule an activity or like make a to-do item or something from this?
Yeah, absolutely. So once you have the report filtered, so we got 18 entries back. And so what we can do at this point is we can go ahead and send to this search option here. And what that's going to do is take us to the search contacts page. And then from here, we can take advantage of some of those bulk actions that we've been learning about today. Like for example, a broadcast email, a mail merge, printing out mailing labels if we want to go ahead and mail them some information in the mail. Whatever the case may be, we can use those contact bulk actions to take care of these contacts and get them on our calendar. You can also even add an activity in bulk if you wanted to as well. So for example, if I wanted to just add them to my calendar and then drag them into place, I can also add an activity. So let me show you a couple of those. Again, we're just going to select all 18 of them from the list here. Choose contact options. And here we go. Here's that mail merge we talked about. Bulk actions. We can either add activities in bulk by using the add activity bulk action, which is located right here at the top. Or my favorite method is just to send them out a broadcast email with a link to my schedule, and they can go ahead and book the time for themselves. So for example, here I have a email template all ready to go for no contact follow-up, which has a link to my Calendly, my scheduling software. And so they can go ahead and click and book a time they want to meet with me.
Awesome. So I can email them. I can add an activity to reach out to them personally, or maybe if I have time this afternoon, I can just go off this list and dial and smile right off this search as well.
A fast tip for that is just hover over their name and it's going to go ahead and show you their phone number. And so if you want to find their phone number quickly, just go ahead and hover over their name and you'll see a pop-up show up that will provide you with their phone number.
Great. Great. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're running short on time here. As far as regulation best interest goes, do you have any tips? I just sent out a CRS form for all my clients. It's one of the new requirements. And how do I record that in Redtail? Where do I even start?
Sure. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. I'm going to teach you two methods. One's using accounts, the other one's using notes. And so let's start with the note method. So for example, let's go ahead and pull up a contact that you might have sent out a CRS form for. So we'll use Rachel Green as an example here. Pull up her contact record. And we will go ahead and record a note basically indicating that we sent them out the form CRS. So here we are on Rachel Green's contact record. What I'm going to use is this plus button here at the top. Choose Notes. The Notes icon is going to appear. And then just like we learned in Tackling Templates, I have a nice form CRS sent template that makes it real easy for me to record that I went ahead and sent out that form CRS to Rachel. Of course, it's going to timestamp it, so we know for compliance the time and the date in which we sent out that form CRS. And so we'll just go ahead and add that note and record that we have sent that form CRS to Rachel. Now, the second way to do it, Haley, is you can actually do it on an account basis. So for example, if we go over to, that looks like I clicked the box for follow-up activity. Let's go back to Rachel's record here. And we're going to open up her account section, and we can actually record the form CRS sent for each of her individual accounts.
Like there's a field in Redtail for that?
Absolutely, yeah. So all you need to do is click on accounts, and then we're going to go ahead and click on the account number to open up the account details section. And you'll notice it here on the right-hand side of the database. So here we go. Best interest dates, and we can go ahead and record the CRS sent date or the CRS signed date for this specific account. So I wanted to add that. I'll just choose this add button here, and I can go ahead that I sent that CRS form out to Rachel today. Now you're probably thinking, that's going to take me forever, Austin. I sent out 20 forms today. I can't click on every single account and mark that off. Well, the good news, Haley, is you can actually use the accounts reports to easily fill out those fields. So if you go to the reports tab here on the left-hand side.
Thank you. I was pretty concerned about my intern.
Of course. Reports here on the left. And then we're going to choose the accounts by contact report. And so like we've been doing for each of these reports that we go ahead and access, we're going to choose the filter option. In this case, I'm going to filter for that contact that I sent the form CRS to. So we'll go ahead and type in Rachel here. Wait for her to appear in the drop-down menu.
So it sounds like with the reports, it's different than the search because it's looking at a specific other item. Like this report's looking at accounts and the search is always looking at contacts.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you got it. So this is going to show all of Rachel's accounts.
Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.